What are Ivy League and other selective colleges' expectations of first year applicants applying from International Baccalaureate Diploma Program high schools? That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one on my website at collegemeister.com. I also encourage you to give a thumbs up to this video if you enjoy it, as well as subscribe to my channel. So, International Baccalaureate Diploma Program high schools offer the IBDP. That's the abbreviation. It is a rigorous 2-year course of study if you do the full IBDP. And of course, high schools have the option of also allowing students to a la carte it. Basically, take a few IBDP courses, but actually not be in the full IB diploma program. So right there brings up point number one, which is if your high school offers the full IBDP and there is no more rigorous curriculum than that at your high school, you should, if you at all are capable of achieving in it, enroll in the full IBDP program. Well, that's duplicative, right? Because I just said IBDP program, but the IBDP. Enroll in the full IBDP, the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program. Because if you just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 IB courses and are not doing the full diploma program, that means you're missing out on the extended essay, you're missing out on CAS, Community Action Service. You are basically taking an easier route than would be perceived by colleges if you do the full IBDP. Now, you may have other things on your plate, and I respect that personally, but if you're going to a school where some students are going to be in the full IBDP and you're not, most likely you're not going to be in the most rigorous academic path offered at that particular high school. So that's tip number one. Be in the full IBDP if it is offered at your high school, because most of the time, if it is, that is the most rigorous course of study offered at your high school. Tip number two, as it relates to expectations of Ivy League and other selective colleges and universities in the United States as they review IBDP students, would be that if you're an American student taking the full IBDP, you sort of have more flexibility, especially if you're at an American domestic school. You don't necessarily, if you're born and raised in the United States, have to pump up your chest and prove your English language skills as much as maybe an international student taking this. So what I am leading up to is that if you're an American, you have flexibility as to what your 3 HLs and what your 3 SLs are. Just so everyone knows, an HL is a higher level course, an SL is a standard level course. Traditionally, you get to take 3 of each in order to cobble together your full IBDP. There are some schools that allow students to take 4 HLs and 2 SLs, but you never want to have fewer than 3 HLs. And so in terms of mixing and matching and taking the right combination or permutation of courses for you, I would definitely say take 3 HLs that you are most interested in, feel like you're strong in, and maybe even align with your course of study in college. The SLs should also be obviously courses that you're interested in taking, but I would not put any SL course on your schedule if it is exactly aligned with what you want to major in college. I would opt for an HL of that, unless, of course, your high school does not offer that particular course at the HL level. In terms of international students taking the IBDP, I would say that especially if you have been born and raised in a country where English is not the first language, I would try to take English at the HL level because that's going to demonstrate to colleges your strength with English understanding, literature, etc., so on and so forth. Definitely do that, not as a foreign language, but as a native learner, if at all possible. So you can really prove your English chomps that way. The other thing I would say is if you are majoring in math, business, engineering, STEM, frankly, you should do everything in your power to enroll in A&A math and not AI. because A&A is where the action is. That is really the creme de la creme in terms of rigor in math. And I would do the AA at the HL level, HL is higher level, because that's going to be the most rigorous math on offer, of course, in the IB, but also that's going to prove that you really can keep up with the big boys at your school academically as it relates to math. And if you're applying for any program where math would be foundational to your success in college, you want to have A&A, HL. That's true of domestic applicants. That's true of international applicants. That's true of English native speakers. That's true of non-English native speakers. Beyond that, and here's what I've been building up to, tip number 3, what should your final predicted scores be if you are applying to and want to get into, let's be honest, you want to get in, you don't just want to apply, you want to get into an Ivy League level school or an Ivy League school itself, a selective American college or university, hyper selective is probably the most appropriate word here. What should your predictions be? Well, many American high schools, interestingly, particularly public schools that offer the full IBDP, interestingly, you could ask a counselor in many of those schools, they may not even know what a prediction is, which is so fascinating to me. But then many of the international schools that offer it, all they offer in terms of sending documentation to schools is the predictions. It's almost the exact opposite, whereas the American schools, many American schools that offer the full IBDP will only send American-style grades, the official transcript with the students' grades for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, therefore the first IB year, IB 1 year in 11th grade, and then maybe grades in progress for IB 2 year, which is the 12th grade year. And they don't know from here or there as it relates to predictions. They'll just send the American style grades, and you'll be looking at grades like 95, 93, 87, A plus, B minus, B plus. Well, you know that. Many international schools won't send grades because many of the international schools that offer the IB don't even curate grades. They don't produce grades, the American style grades ever, but especially once the students in the IB, many of them will simply produce internal assessments for students on a periodic basis throughout the IBDP. And they will just send to colleges in the fall of the students' last year in high school, 12th grade year. Some schools are 13th year, depending on the system. And senior year is also another way to name it. They'll just send the predictions. What are predictions? Predictions are what your teachers predict will be your final scores in all of the exams you take for the IBDP. And so therefore, if you're taking 6 IB courses, which is standard, of course. That's not the right word to use because I don't want to confuse you with standard level, but that is the typical way that you complete the IBDP is taking 6 courses, 3 HLs, 3 SLs. You could get as high as a 7 on each of those exams. So 7 times 6 is 42. And then you can get up to 3 extra points for your extended essay, your CAS, etc. So that could be a maximum prediction score of 45. That would be perfect. That would be like, hell man, I mean, that would be amazing if you got a 45 prediction. So schools that send predictions, many of which will send predictions with an official transcript and also your official American style or local grades from your high school that you earn in those courses, but also earlier in high school. You really, if you want to have the very best shot of admission, you want to be as close to 45 as possible, right? In terms of those predictions. So obviously 45 is where it's at if you can at all hit that. What's the lowest you can go and still be considered like a serious applicant for admission to a selective college or university like an Ivy or Stanford or Duke or you name it? I would say that years ago I used to say 39. I used to say 39 would be the very lowest. That would be inclusive of the CAS points, the extended essay. I would say that these days, realistically, you really want to be 41, 42 or higher. I think that, depending on how your school sends out predictions, and if they do it all, obviously if they send out predictions, they have to clarify if the overall predictions they're giving includes those 3 extra points beyond what you can get out of 42 from just 7s across the board. So your ideal situation, if you are getting predicted for all 45 points are on the table in terms of what is able to be predicted at your school, you very much want to have a minimum, I think, of 41 to be in really strong contention. Obviously, there's many other facets of the process, right? We have those in other videos. We talk about extracurricular activities and your essay writing skills, and your letters of recommendation obviously are going to matter a lot, as well as some of these colleges interview, and of course your overall high school record beyond just the IBDP. But let's be honest, if you're in the full IBDP, regardless of if you're doing that in Bahrain or if you're doing that in Brazil or if you're doing that in Bhutan, it's very important that you get the highest predictions possible from your teachers. These predictions are hopefully updated versions of the internal predictions that you got at the end of your first IB year. So these are hopefully not stale from like May or April of your first year in IB. Hopefully these are fresh predictions that your teachers have been able to pull together for you in September or October of your final year in IB, IB2 year, your final year in high school. And your college counselor will send them usually along with your actual high school official grades on your transcript. Again, there are some schools and some school systems that will only send predictions for IBDP students. Others will only send official grades on a high school transcript, completely devoid of predictions. If you go to one of those schools that does not predict, in some ways you're better off because you get to hide what your teachers think you'll end up as in terms of those exam scores. But in other ways, you're worse off because colleges, especially Ivy League level colleges, are really attracted to students who are predicted to score high. Now, that raises the level of the bar for you, though, because if you get your application into Penn or Princeton or Emory or Duke or you name it, and they're saying you're predicted to get a 43 all in, including the CAS points, let's say, and all that fun stuff by the end of your IB diploma program, and that's part of the official record of what's sent by your high school to the colleges that you apply to, with or without your official well, obviously they're going to need a transcript of some sort from 9th grade and 10th grade, but with or without your other 11th or 12th grade grades, that means you have to perform to that level or very close to it when you actually do sit for those exams in May and those scores come out in July after your senior year. If, let's say, you're predicted to get a 43 and then you sit for the exams and your overall scores with the extra 3 points are only maxing out at 39 or, God forbid, lower, then the colleges have, especially colleges in the UK, have a proclivity to pool offers. Not as much in the US do they pool offers for a few point spread from what you were predicted to earn and then what you earn. But once you go over 4 points spread from where you were predicted from and then you're lower, that is even skating on thin ice, particularly with highly selective schools like those in the United States. Because the date by which those scores come out is July and you've already matriculated or deposited by May 1st, and sometimes many months earlier if you got an ED or EA, or rolling, you are in a position where it's less likely in the United States that they pull offer of admission unless there was a huge nosedive. Like, let's say you were predicted to get a 42 or 43, you got in on that premise, and then your actual scores come out as a 33. I mean, that's a 10-point spread. That's a disaster for you. Something went horribly wrong. Either you got very sick or your teachers just lied to help pump you up in the process of getting into colleges and admissions process, which would not be a good idea. So do not pressure your teachers in the IBDP to over-predict for you, because that could really boomerang back on you and hurt you horrifically. Have them give their best educated and professional predictions to the counselor, so the counselor can then send the entire beautiful little package to your colleges of choice that you apply to, so that they will most likely be in the range of what you end up earning in terms of those 6 IB exams that you sit for in May of your 12th grade year in high school. So that's it. We've talked about expectations of Ivy League colleges for particularly IBDP students. Make sure if your school offers the IBDP, you're in the full IBDP. Make sure that if you are a non-English native speaker that you try to be in an HL of English. Make sure if you're looking into anything math related in terms of a major or career that you are an A&A and that it's HL if at all possible if your school offers it. And then big climatic argument of mine is try to get no less than a prediction of 41 or 42. If you're 40 or lower these days, I think you are on thin ice. Now, can you get in with a 40 or 39 prediction? Absolutely. There are exceptional cases. Those would definitely probably be in the minority of those who are getting predictions sent for them. But it's usually those kids have something very strong, and many other things very strong elsewhere. So just keep that in mind. And don't necessarily consider the fact that you go to a school that doesn't send predictions a good thing, because I have had students get huge scholarships just based off their predictions to colleges and universities. So in many ways, I hope your school does send predictions, especially if the teachers know what they're doing. If it's the first year your school is offering the IBDP, then maybe they want to hold off on predictions because no one knows what they're doing yet, or maybe they're all fresh or rookie IBDP teachers. But ultimately, if you go to a school that's been offering the IBDP for 5-10 years, and the teachers teaching it are actually, they've been around the block, they know what they're doing, predictions, I think, can really, really help you. Now, if you're not doing well in the program, obviously, you're probably not going to be applying to Ivy League level schools anyway, at least with much hope. And therefore, that's why I tell you at the end of this video that 41, 42 minimum. Again, I would even say maybe 3 years ago I said 40, but in a world in which SAT and ACT scores are optional, these other elements of the process that are sort of more required for students in the IBDP start to take, I think, almost a greater role in terms of determining your chances, even though these schools, as I'm now talking about colleges now, claim to be very averse to judging people based off test scores, because the International Baccalaureate Diploma program, the whole way in which it's determined of whether or not you've succeeded or failed in it is based off of your scores at the end. This is one way in which scores are still really vital to the process, and it's very hard with a straight face for American admissions officers to say otherwise. So just keep that in mind. If you are an IBDP student and you want further advice to help you navigate the college admissions process to America's most selective colleges and universities, I strongly encourage you to go to my website, collegemeister.com, to learn more about me and how we can work together one-on-one. Beyond that, like I said, subscribe to my channel, like this video, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. You can watch my whole back catalog of videos at youtube.com/collegemeister. I know if you've gotten this far, you're an IBDP student, or you're considering it, or you're a parent of one. And so this next final message I'm going to share with you probably really resonates with you, because many such individuals are stressed individuals. So listen, and listen well. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. I think, what do I normally say? Stay safe, stay well. That's, stay well, stay healthy. And most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.